Hello and welcome to Back to School Night. My name is Mrs. Marcon and you are in marine biology. If you need my contact information, my email is alexa.marcon@oside.us. Email is my preferred method of communication, but I do have my phone number here as well in case if you need it. My extension is 8354 and I am in room T206. So a little bit of background about me. I attended UC San Diego for undergraduate, and I studied environmental biology and marine science, and I also had a minor in political science. After graduating from UC San Diego, I actually worked in scientific research at Scripps Institution of Oceanography in La Jolla, and I was working in a research lab that studied whale and dolphin acoustics. So I do have professional background, scientific research skills, and experience in marine biology. I also worked for Birch Aquarium for a short period of time and also the Ocean Institute up in Dana Point. So I definitely have work experience in marine biology, and that's something that I'm excited to share with my students. After working at those places, I decided to go into teaching, and I've taught at several schools, and I've been here at Oceanside High School for the last 3 years. I started out teaching biology and forensics, and now I have transitioned to marine biology and oceanography, which I'm very excited about. A little bit about marine biology. So this course is a life science class. We will be focusing a lot on concepts that are foundational to biology. And we're also going to be focusing on the larger marine environment as well, so encompassing both the living systems and the non-living systems throughout the ocean. So you can read this more on your own time, but like I said, we're going to be focusing on the fundamentals of biology in the marine environment while also considering non-living factors and the impacts of human activities on marine life. So this does meet the graduation requirement, the D graduation requirement, as a laboratory science as well. This is the textbook that we will hopefully be getting soon for our students. Unfortunately, we did not have these at the start of the school year. We are currently working on getting these for our students. This is what it is. It's Marine Science by Castro and Huber. This is the high school edition. And I did just receive my teacher copy of this. So like I said, hopefully we'll get the class set and we'll get the students their copies as soon as we can. The topics that we will cover in marine biology include Intro to Science and the Sea. This is the unit that our students are currently in right now. Unit 2 will be Earth Processes and Ocean Systems. So thinking about global currents, thinking about tides, thinking about waves, more of the physical oceanography concepts. Unit 3, we will be getting into diversity of marine life. So thinking about how marine life really came to be, covering some topics in evolution, genetics, and looking at what kind of marine life we have in our oceans today. Unit 4 will be focused on marine ecology and studying different marine communities throughout the oceans around the world. And then spring semester, Unit 5 will be getting into really our comparative anatomy units. And we'll also be focusing on the base of our ocean food web, which is algae, kelp, and plankton. And then for Unit 6, we will be looking at marine invertebrates. So those are organisms that do not have a backbone. And we'll be doing some dissections, doing comparative anatomy with those organisms. Unit 7 will be looking at marine vertebrates, so organisms with a backbone, and also doing comparative anatomy dissections in those units as well. And our last unit will be focused on humans and the sea. So how have human activities impacted the sea, and what are some solutions that we are currently working towards? The materials that your student needs for this class are a spiral notebook or a 3-ring binder. I'm giving them the option, but they do need to have one of these in order to keep their classwork organized. If they're using a 3-ring binder, they will need some dividers for each of the different units we cover. They will also need their Chromebook ready and charged to go for class. Something to write with. I highly recommend this 4-color clicker pen. It's really great for taking notes. My students know by now that I like to use a lot of colors when we're taking notes and with our classwork. So this is a really great pen to have. It's not required, but like I said, I do recommend it. A highlighter is important. A good attitude is definitely important. And some other optional items you might want to have for your student are their own glue stick, because we are constantly gluing in classwork into our science notebooks. So it might be helpful to have their own glue stick, their own colored pencils or markers. We add a lot of color, like I said, to our notes, because color actually helps you remember things better, according to scientific research. So having their own colors might be helpful, and eventually their own calculator would be helpful to have as well. But like I said, these aren't required. I do have class sets of these that students are allowed to borrow. Okay, the grade breakdown, and I apologize that there is a lot on this slide, but you can see up at the top is how the grades are broken down for this class. Assessments, which include quizzes and tests, are 40% of your student's grade, which is pretty heavily weighted. So it's very important that they take quizzes and tests seriously. Quizzes and tests are closed notes. So they are not allowed to use notes on their tests or quizzes. Classwork homework is 20% of their grade. Labs and projects are 30%. And the midterm/final is 10% of their grade. So a couple of things to note, classwork and homework. Classwork is going to be kept in their notebooks or their binder, and we will be grading classwork periodically through a notebook check. We have our first notebook check coming up in a week and a half. So it's important that your student keeps their notebook organized. I have a table of contents posted on Google Classroom where they can check their table of contents to make sure they have everything in their notebook. Some homework assignments will be assigned online through Google Classroom. So some of these assignments are like ed puzzles, or maybe it's a written typed assignment. So those assignments will be graded separately. And students that are quarantined or sick are still expected to keep up with assignments, and they can get the daily agendas and work through Google Classroom. So I'm really trying my best to make digital copies of everything for those students that are quarantined, but it's important that you know that if your student is quarantined, they still need to keep up as much as they can, and they can always email me if they have questions about anything. A couple of other important things to note. So retake policy, this is my retake policy. So students that score a 70% or lower on a test will have the opportunity to do 1 retake per test and will receive a maximum score of 70% on that retake. So even if they do the retake and they get a 95%, the highest I'll allow is a 70%, because that's not fair to the students who took it the first time and they did well the first time. So that is my policy with the retakes. The highest score will be recorded in the gradebook. So if they, bomb their retake, if they do worse than they did the first time, then I will keep whatever score is highest. There are no retakes for quizzes. And as I mentioned before, all assessments, quizzes, and tests are closed notes, and most likely they will usually always be on the Chromebook. So it's important that they have their Chromebook ready, especially on test days. Students are not allowed to use any secondary devices. That includes phones or their own personal laptop on assessments. That's prohibited and considered cheating. And I do not allow retakes for the midterm or the final. In terms of late work, so students they were already given 4 late work passes at the beginning of the semester. And students can turn in late assignments with a late work pass and get full credit for that assignment. And they can turn it in at any time during the semester with this pass, and still get full credit. So these passes are important for them to not lose. There will be other opportunities throughout the semester to earn more late work passes. And students can definitely still turn in late work without a pass. That's totally fine. I'd rather they turn something in than not turn it in at all. But just know that if your student turns in late work without a pass, they can't receive more than 70%, depending on how late the work is and its completeness. So I know that was a lot. If you have questions, you're welcome to email me about it and I can clarify further. All right, so this is the grading scale for this course, which is pretty straightforward. The one thing to note is that in order to get a D and pass this class, your student needs to get a 55%. Usually this is a 60%, but because tests and quizzes are weighted so heavily, I decided to lower this down to 55 to make it more feasible for our students to pass. So a minimum of a 55% is required to get a D and to pass this class and get credit towards graduation. All right, and that is it. Like I said, if you have any questions, please feel free to email me. My email is right here, and I hope you have a great rest of your evening. Thank you.